Have you ever watched someone you love slowly drift away, not because you did anything wrong, but because closeness terrifies them? You sense it, the subtle distance, the delayed replies, the way their warmth turns to silence. And at first, you tell yourself it's nothing. Maybe they're just busy. Maybe it's in your head. But deep down, you know. Something's changing. Something's slipping. And what hurts most isn't the silence itself. It's the confusion it leaves behind. The wondering if you pushed too hard, cared too much, or expected too soon. But here's what no one tells you: when a dismissive avoidant pulls away, it's not rejection, it's fear. Fear disguised as control. Fear masked as independence. You're about to understand why. Because what happens next will change how you see connection, love, and emotional detachment forever. You start replaying every conversation in your head. Every laugh, every late-night message, every moment that made you believe this was real. And then, almost overnight, it's gone. They don't say it outright. They just fade. No fights. No closure. Just distance disguised as peace. You tell yourself, maybe they need space. Maybe if I give them time, they'll come back. But the mind doesn't rest easily. It starts to create stories, painful ones. You start thinking, did I say too much? Was I too needy? Did I make them feel trapped? That's the illusion. The illusion that their withdrawal is your fault. Here's the truth most people never understand. When a dismissive avoidant pulls away, it's rarely about you. It's about what closeness awakens inside of them: fear, vulnerability, and the haunting thought that love means losing control. Avoidants crave connection, but the moment they feel it getting real, their nervous system interprets it as danger. Their mind whispers, this is too much. Too close. You'll get hurt. You'll lose yourself. So they shut down, not to hurt you, but to protect themselves from the ghosts of their past. And yet, when you see their silence, your heart interprets it as rejection. You start chasing clarity. You text again, just to see if they'll respond. You wait for that typing bubble that never appears. Each second of silence feels heavier than the last. But here's the illusion within the illusion. You believe that your effort can fix their distance. You believe that if you can just show them how much you care, they'll finally feel safe enough to stay. That's the trap. Because the more you reach, the more they retreat. Not because they don't care, but because your pursuit confirms their fear, that intimacy is pressure, that love demands more than they can give. You start doubting your worth. You question if you were too much, when in reality, you were just present. And for a dismissive avoidant, presence can feel overwhelming. They crave love from a distance. They want the warmth of connection, but only when it doesn't demand vulnerability. And so, they stay caught in a loop, desiring closeness but running from it. And you, being the one who feels deeply, mistake that silence for indifference. You think they've stopped caring. But what's actually happening is something far more complex. They care so much that their mind tells them it's safer to shut it down than to risk losing control. Here's where Stoicism begins to whisper a truth that breaks the illusion. The Stoics taught that what hurts us most isn't what others do, it's the meaning we attach to it. Silence, in itself, is neutral. It's your mind that turns it into rejection. The Stoic Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, it is not the thing itself that troubles you, but your judgment of it." Their silence isn't a verdict on your value. It's simply a reflection of their inner battle, a storm that has nothing to do with your worth. The moment you realize this, something inside you shifts. You stop chasing answers from someone who's still running from themselves. You stop trying to pull love out of someone who fears it. Because real strength isn't found in chasing closeness. It's found in standing still when someone else retreats, grounded in your peace. In that silence, you begin to see clearly. You start to separate what's yours from what's theirs. And that clarity is the beginning of emotional freedom. You think distance means the end. That when someone pulls away, the story is over. But with a dismissive avoidant, pulling away isn't an ending, it's a coping mechanism. They learned early that closeness equals danger. That love can suffocate, that dependence means vulnerability. So they built walls disguised as independence. Walls that say, I don't need anyone. This isn't about arrogance or pride. It's about survival. Somewhere in their past, love came with unpredictability. Affection was followed by rejection. So now, when someone gets close, their nervous system sounds the alarm, this will hurt again. Run. You can't logic them out of that reaction. Because it's not logic, it's conditioning. They retreat not to punish you, but to preserve the fragile sense of control they built to feel safe in a chaotic world. But here's where it gets tricky. When they withdraw, and you respond with fear or chasing, you unintentionally confirm their worst belief, that love equals pressure. That intimacy means losing peace. You think reaching out will reassure them. But to their nervous system, it feels like suffocation. They don't interpret your message as care, they interpret it as invasion. And that's the heartbreaking part. Because your intention is connection. But their perception is danger. This is where Stoicism offers a lifeline. It teaches that your peace cannot depend on another's behavior. Epictetus said, we suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgments about them. When someone pulls away, the instinct is to fix it. To chase clarity, to demand closure. But the Stoic perspective says, pause. Observe, don't react. Because reacting feeds their fear. Responding with calm reclaims your power. It's not about playing games or pretending not to care. It's about embodying stillness, showing through your composure that love doesn't have to mean chaos. Avoidants aren't healed by being chased. They're healed by safety. And safety is found in your calm energy, not your urgency. When you stop chasing, something subtle happens. The avoidant feels a shift. They sense that the emotional pressure is gone. And slowly, their walls lower, because they realize they can breathe around you. But don't mistake that for a quick fix. This isn't a test of patience, it's a practice of peace. The Stoics understood that people act according to their nature until they're ready to change. And you can't rush another person's readiness. So instead of asking, why did they pull away? Ask, why am I uncomfortable with their silence? Because that discomfort is your own attachment seeking validation. That's the deeper truth, your reaction to their withdrawal mirrors your own fear of loss. You both fear vulnerability. You just express it differently. They withdraw. You chase. Both are ways of avoiding pain. And yet, real strength is found in the middle ground, detachment without indifference, compassion without control. When you stop trying to control the outcome, you step into emotional freedom. You stop needing answers from someone who doesn't yet understand their own emotions. You begin to accept that people show up according to their level of healing, not your level of effort. The Stoic in you learns to love without grasping. To give space without resentment. To remain kind without losing boundaries. Because when you can remain still while someone else retreats, that's when you've mastered both love and detachment. That's when you understand, peace isn't something they can give you. It's something you create, regardless of who stays or leaves. There's a moment when everything stops. The messages stop. The questions stop. Even the urge to chase stops. And what's left is silence. At first, that silence feels like loneliness. But as you sit with it longer, something changes. You start to hear your own thoughts again. You start to feel your own presence again. This is the Stoic shift, the moment you stop focusing on their distance and start focusing on your own discipline. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. And that's where the transformation begins. When you stop trying to control what's outside you, you begin to master what's within. You start to see that their pulling away was never about you, it was an invitation. An invitation to stand still, to confront your own attachment, to remember that your peace cannot depend on another person's presence. This is where many men lose themselves. They confuse love with control. They think if they hold tighter, they'll keep her from leaving. But Stoicism teaches the opposite. You keep peace by releasing control. You love without possession. You care without collapsing. The Stoic doesn't beg for closure. He creates it within himself. He doesn't chase the person who leaves, he learns from the pain they awaken. Because pain is not punishment. It's information. It shows you where you've placed your power in someone else's hands. And once you take it back, you begin to live differently. You start responding, not reacting. You don't post out of sadness or text out of fear. You choose every word with purpose, or you choose silence, because silence, when chosen, becomes strength. In that moment, you no longer need their validation. You become emotionally self-sufficient. You begin to embody a kind of calm that confuses people, because it's rare. That's the Stoic's power. Not emotional suppression, but emotional mastery. Not pretending not to care, but caring wisely. You still feel. You still hope. But you no longer suffer over what you cannot control. And something incredible happens when you reach that space. The avoidant, the one who pulled away, senses the difference. Because your energy no longer demands. It simply exists. Calm, confident, untethered. They may return, or they may not. But for the first time, that uncertainty doesn't disturb you. Because you've made peace with both possibilities. The Stoic knows that love is not measured by possession, but by presence. You were present. You showed up with honesty. And now, you let the universe do the rest. No resentment. No cold revenge. Just quiet strength. The same strength the ancient philosophers lived by. They faced loss, betrayal, death, and yet remained unshaken. Not because they didn't feel, but because they refused to let emotion rule them. Seneca once said, "He who is brave is free." And bravery here isn't loud. It's not about winning the argument or making her regret it. It's about standing tall in the storm of uncertainty and choosing calm over chaos. Because when you can love someone deeply, and still let them walk away if they must, you've transcended fear. You've moved from attachment to acceptance. And that's where true masculine peace is born. You don't chase. You don't close your heart. You simply remain. Still. Grounded. Whole. And in that stillness, something remarkable happens. You stop waiting for their return, and you start returning to yourself. There's a strange peace that comes when you stop fighting for what's slipping away. At first, it feels like surrender. But soon, you realize its strength. Because peace isn't found in control, it's found in acceptance. You start moving differently. You stop checking your phone every few minutes. You stop replaying what you could have said or done better. You simply start living again. You laugh more. You sleep better. You start to enjoy your own company again. Because now, you understand something most people never do. You cannot lose what's meant for you, and you cannot keep what's not ready for you. That realization sets you free. And here's the irony. The moment you stop chasing, the moment you release attachment, the avoidant starts to feel something they haven't felt before. Safety. Your calm energy no longer threatens them. Your stillness shows them that love doesn't have to mean suffocation. You become the mirror that reflects peace instead of pressure. They might reach out. A simple, "Hey, how have you been?" Not because they're testing you, but because they feel drawn to the quiet strength you now carry. But this time, you're different. You don't respond from emptiness. You respond from fullness. You no longer need them to complete you, you've already found completeness within yourself. This is the essence of Stoic love. It's not cold. It's not detached. It's grounded. Wise. Compassionate without dependence. You've stopped making their behavior the measure of your worth. You've learned that the highest form of love isn't attachment, it's respect. Respect for their process. Respect for your peace. If they return, you welcome them with calm curiosity, not desperation. If they don't, you wish them well and continue your journey. Either way, you've already won. Because peace is victory. And control over self is the highest form of power. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to love." That's the Stoic heart: love deeply, but remain unshaken. Care fully, but never lose yourself. You now understand that real strength isn't loud. It's quiet. It's the ability to stay centered while everything else shifts around you. The world will test you again. People will still withdraw, disappoint, misunderstand. But now, you carry something rare: equanimity. That deep, unshakable calm that no one can take away from you. And maybe, just maybe, that's the point of it all. The avoidant pulling away wasn't meant to break you. It was meant to awaken you, to show you how to hold love without fear. It was never about getting them back. It was about getting yourself back. Because when you finally master the art of letting go, you discover something beautiful. You never lose anything real. You only lose illusions, of control, of ownership, of permanence. And what remains, is truth. That's where your journey begins, not in chasing love, but in becoming it. There comes a moment, after the storm, when silence no longer feels like punishment. It feels like peace. You realize that the dismissive avoidant didn't break you. They revealed you. They showed you where your attachment still clings, where your ego still fears, and where your heart still confuses control for connection. And when you finally sit in that truth, something inside you clicks. You stop waiting for a text. You stop checking their stories. You stop wondering if they ever cared. Instead, you start caring, for yourself. You begin to live again. Not to prove a point, not to win them back, but because your life is yours again. This is the essence of Stoicism, not to suppress your emotions, but to see them clearly without being ruled by them. Love deeply, but remain free. Feel pain, but do not become it. One day, they might reach out. Maybe they'll test the waters. Maybe they'll just be curious. But by then, something inside you will have shifted. You won't respond out of need. You'll respond out of peace. You won't chase. You'll simply stand still, knowing that nothing real ever needs to be forced. The truth is, you don't lose people who are meant for your path. You only lose those who came to teach you how to walk it alone. So, if someone with a dismissive avoidant heart pulled away from you, thank them, not with words, but with growth. Because every time someone withdraws, they give you an invitation to return home to yourself. You have learned that silence doesn't mean rejection. It means redirection. You have learned that control is not love. Freedom is. And you have learned that when you stop chasing, what's truly yours will find you, in peace, not in chaos. Master yourself, and no one can ever take your peace.